Yes.
The American poet Mary Oliver published this poem in 2004 in a collection entitled Why I Wake Early. The poem is called Bone. Understand, I am always trying to figure out what the soul is and where hidden and what shape. And so last week, when I found on the beach the ear bone of a pilot whale that may have died hundreds of years ago, I thought maybe I was close to discovering something. For the ear bone is the portion that lasts longest in any of us, man or whale, shaped like a squat spoon with a pink scoop where once in the lively swimmer's head, it joined its two sisters in the house of hearing. It was only 2 inches long. And I thought, the soul might be like this, so hard, so necessary, yet almost nothing. Beside me, the gray sea was opening and shutting its wave doors, unfolding over and over its time ridiculing roar. I looked, but I couldn't see anything through its dark knit glare. Yet, don't we all know the golden sand is there at the bottom, though our eyes have never seen it, nor can our hands ever catch it? Lest we would sift it down into fractions and facts, certainties, and what the soul is, also, I believe I will never quite know, though I play at the edges of knowing. Truly, I know our part is not knowing, but looking and touching and loving, which is the way I walked on softly through the pale pink morning light. I fully identify with Mary Oliver's opening words. Understand, I am always trying to figure out what the soul is and where hidden and what shape. After 19 years in the rabbinate, I agree that it is not ours to fully know what the soul is exactly, but it is for us to wonder what it is and where hidden. And I can say something about its shape. The soul's shape is the subject of these high holy days. My first direct experience of the question, where hidden, came years ago in a hospital room in Connecticut at the bedside of an elderly man who had died minutes before. Although it was hardly my first visit with the dying or my first request to officiate at the funeral of someone I didn't know, this was the first time I was present the moment the breath of life was gone. Something more was gone. In his new utter stillness, this man was not who he had been. I could tell, even though I had not known him in life. I can't say how I knew this, only that I did. His soul had departed along with his heartbeat. I believe my tradition, which teaches that the soul lingers for a while after death. Since I did not know this man, I wasn't stricken with grief. And although I was affected, I was also able to be a little curious. So I surreptitiously glanced around, wondering. I didn't see his soul. I didn't really expect to. Nevertheless, it is our nature to be curious. Instead, I did my job. I directed that the appropriate Jewish rituals were followed, designed to respect his body, the vessel of his soul, and cleanse it before burial, and to escort his soul, to stand guard over it, shomrim, and to help his family elevate it through his funeral and through the months of saying Kaddish. It is sweet and so thoughtful that we Jews wish to be companions through our words of Kaddish to the soul in its final journey after death. It strikes me this year, more than most, that our tradition imagines the soul might be lonely on its final journey. As we live through this pandemic and its social isolation among its other devastating effects, we know firsthand how powerful loneliness can be. If the soul is not like Mary Oliver's surprising image of a small, hard, smooth, pink ear bone of a pilot whale, but rather a bit of spirit, an essence, elusive as a breath, which is the more common metaphor. And if this spirit is on a journey, where is it going? And which gentle updrafts, exhalations, or harsh winds carry it upward? The 19th century rabbi known as Malbim, Rabbi Meir Leibush ben Yechiel Michal Visser, comments on a phrase at the beginning of the 90th Psalm, in which the ancient Hebrew poet and king David appealed to God in a way that might help us to know where the soul is journeying after death or even in life. The psalmist wrote, Adonai, ma'on ata hayita lanu b'dor v'dor. Lord, you have been a dwelling for us in generation after generation. Malbim imagines what this might mean. In this excerpt from his commentary, he writes first about birth and then about death. The spirits and the souls which will be born in the future already exist eternally in a real way in their makor niskav, their sublime wellspring, their source in Adonai Elohei Haruchot, Lord the God of spirits. And there is no difference between the time before the soul enters the material world and after, only that the soul's reality is then dressed in substance. It is subject to time and to the laws of nature. And that is a mere happenstance which occurs to the soul, not something integral to its identity. For in the core identity of a person, which is his spiritual identity, there is no change at birth except a shift in location. As a drop of water which emerges from its spring, there is no difference after it flows from the spring as when it was inside the spring, only a change of place. And so, after a person has died, there is no change in him except a shift of location, for his spiritual identity, which is his human identity, is still there and is not diminished and is unchanged. It just rose up from its lower level where it dwelt among people who labor among material things to its spiritual dwelling, where its tent has been since the very beginning, to the source from which it flowed. And all the generations which passed before this person was created, the Holy One of Blessing was there dwelling too. Do you believe what Malbim believed? That the soul is separate from the body? That it is eternal? You don't have to. But you can see that it would make a difference in how you live your life, to view yourself as being on a continuous journey, even in life, toward the dwelling from which you once emerged and to which you will one day return, an eternal dwelling with God. I believe, as Malbim does, that the soul survives death and is not fundamentally changed by life. Yet I do believe it can be affected by life. Our souls can either return to the dwelling place of souls, to God, in a state of wholeness as our best selves, or our souls can go back to God burdened or diminished by neglect or injured by pain or soiled by our own misdeeds, cruelties, or dishonest words. Our good actions in life can strengthen and beautify our souls, make them nimble, agile in the doing of good. And our poor behavior can diminish the light, the joy, the resilience of our souls. If we have not repaired our serious ethical errors in life, I believe we can become lesser souls when we return to God after we die than we were on the day we were born in all sweet innocence. Yom Kippur is a chance to repair our own souls. Imagine that. To become the person that our soul yearns to be, so that we can arrive at the entry to God's tent one day with a clear conscience. That is why the rabbis regard Yom Kippur as a joyous day, because it is so healing, eternally healing. The day itself forgives, they say, if we have done the work to apologize to those we have harmed, to make restitution, and to confess and face our own betrayals of God. If we take action to cleanse our souls, then the day itself forgives. The day itself has compassion on us. And Yizkor, on Yom Kippur, more than on the other 3 Jewish holidays when we say Yizkor, is a time to remember those we have lost through the same lens of forgiveness that we wish for ourselves, considering the yearnings of their souls and remembering that we do not know everything about other people, even about intimates. We may have a somewhat privileged window into the souls we remember, if we knew them well, if we understood them, if we loved them, and if we understood what they were up against in life. Our tradition knows that love can be as strong as death. As another ancient poet, David's son Solomon, said in Song of Songs, Simeni chachotam al libecha, chachotam al ziroecha, ki hazah chamavet ahava. Let me be a seal upon your heart, like the seal upon your hand, for love is strong as death. The love we feel for those we mourn need not be tied to any achievement of theirs at all, but only to who they were, which is enough. Sometimes, though, a person's loss is felt keenly because they had a big impact and their life story is instructive. One such person whom I must tell you about died in August. He was a rabbi named Adin Steinsaltz, or in the Hebrew version of his family name, Even Yisrael. Even in Hebrew and Stein in German both mean stone. His first name, Adin, means delicate, refined. His towering life's work was his popular edition of the Babylonian Talmud, published in 45 volumes. He preserved the original Aramaic text, which usually requires only 16 volumes, and he added interlinear clarifications in modern Hebrew, yielding a masterpiece of accessibility. Its usefulness has only grown as it was translated into English, French, Spanish, and Russian. The Hebrew edition alone took 40 years to complete, from 1965 until 2005. Rabbi Steinsaltz sought to create an edition of the Talmud that all Jews would understand, regardless of their prior level of religious education. He knew that students of Talmud, even if brilliant and learned, at times need to consult a teacher who knows even more, and that such teachers are quite rare. In an interview in 2005, he explained the simple goal of his publication. My idea is that I'm trying to substitute a book for a living teacher. In a modest way, what you and I are doing at Yizkor today resembles this imaginative task that Rabbi Steinsaltz set for himself. In creating a book that could substitute for a living teacher, he preserved the voice, the mind, the soul of a great teacher. And he made this teacherly presence available to us whenever we need him. All we have to do is to open his book and start to read. You and I will shortly call to mind the souls we remember, including people we still need and we still wish we could consult for their advice, their empathy, and their unique ways of seeing the world. We remember and honor them with the sublime words of Kaddish. We wonder how will their souls, their voices, their values live on in this world which still needs them? What actions can I take in my loved ones' memories so that they will continue to speak to me and even to the wider world? Our charitable commitments in their memories our good deeds done in their memories, and our words which memorialize them. These are classic Jewish paths to do so. I never met Rabbi Steinsaltz, but I feel as though I know something of his soul through his remarkable work, and I see how aptly he was named. He was both adin, delicate in his refinement of mind and his gentle, loving solicitude for his students, and he was strong as a stone in his immense hard work, self-discipline, and sheer persistence. His work was a painstaking, decades-long act of unbounded love for his people. His love does survive. Love can be stronger than death. This rabbi's life's work was a faithful act of love. My halting, tearful words of Kaddish and yours are also faithful acts of love. That is what makes our Kaddish sacred. These acts of love escort the soul and battle the loneliness of its journey to the dwelling place of spirits and help the soul to rest in peace. In Mary Oliver's poem Bone, there's a nuance that connects the beginning to the end. Did you catch it? At the end, there's a pale pink morning light through which she walks. It echoes the pink of the whalebone fragment she found on the beach. When wondering about the soul, she connects hard opacity and soft illumination, bone and light, through a color as gently radiant as optimism itself. Adin Steinsaltz was named for delicate softness and dependable stone. Softness and hardness are essential to the spiritual greatness of this poet and this rabbi. The hardness of unstinting effort and the gentle persistence of wonder and learning. I pray that one day, in due time, my soul will be reunited with my Creator in the dwelling place of spirits, unburdened, unbroken, unsoiled, and through good, or mostly so. As we honor the memories of our loved ones, let us recall the yearnings of their souls. And if we have never thought about the yearnings of their souls, or never thought about the yearnings of our own souls, there is no time like this sacred moment to give these some loving thought. May this holy day itself lift your burdens and cleanse your souls. And may your soul's daily journey toward God be joyous. And a long, long time from now, may your soul's final journey be a homecoming in the dwelling place of spirits, a mere shift of location.